The morning started out like any other on our Northern California ranch. I received a text from my dad to hop on the four-wheeler and meet him in the alfalfa field. My dad jumped out of his GPS-guided rotary swather, a technology that allows him to cut a perfectly straight windrow at 10 to 12 miles per hour. He reached for his smartphone, went to an app, and turned on the center pivot. The pivot is an overhead sprinkler irrigation system which applies the exact amount of water we need to irrigate the fields. "Can you go check the cows?" he asked. I hopped on the back of the four-wheeler and drove to the house and grabbed the drone, an unmanned aerial vehicle with a video camera attached. I set it up and flew out over the cows. We used the drone to check on the health and the welfare of our cattle without having to physically go there. After I was done, I went back to the house and grabbed some lunch. Later that day, I walked over to the old barn. I grabbed the weathered barn door and pulled it open with a creak. The inside was covered with dust and old tools. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something hidden under a tattered tarp. I reached for the tarp and pulled it off. Underneath was an old, rusty crank-start tractor. Out of curiosity, I hopped inside and turned the key. I jumped back with a start. It was red hot. It looked like I looked down in astonishment. At that moment, I saw a flash of light and then nothing. I woke up on the barn floor. I saw the light shining through the barn doors. I must have passed out, I thought to myself. I looked to my right, and to my surprise, the tractor was missing. I walked out of the old barn, but when I turned around, it looked brand new. In the distance, I could see an old farmhouse and started walking toward it. When I arrived, I opened the door and saw an old man reading a newspaper. I looked down in the paper and stepped back in horror. The date on the paper said July 15th, 1932. Great Scott, I thought to myself. Then that must mean, and sure enough, the headline stated, "Thousands Still Suffering from Great Depression." The old man looked up at me. "What do you want, boy?" he grumbled. I stuttered. I think he's the new ranch hand here. The new ranch hand here," yelled a woman's voice from the kitchen. I nodded hesitantly. "Oh," he said, "then I have a job for you." Later that day, I found myself cutting alfalfa with a sickle bar mower and a team of horses. It was an extremely tedious job, and the horses were beginning to act stubborn. It took all day, and by the time I was done, it was nearly 10 p.m. The next morning, my job was to feed the pigs, chickens, and cows, milk the dairy cow, and set tarps in the irrigation ditch to water the fields. I had to wake up before dawn to make sure I had time to do all of it. Before I left to do my chores, I asked the old man how many people he could feed. "We only have enough to feed our livestock and our own family," he sighed. I was amazed at the differences in farming in just 85 years. Modern technology allows us to feed 155 people per farmer in 2017. After that message, I went to do my chores. When I came back, I saw the old man looking with pride at a tractor. I recognized it at once. It was a tractor from the barn in my time, but newer and nicer. "Just arrived this morning," he announced. "This will change the way we do things around here." This is my way home, I thought. "Mind if I try it out?" I asked. "Feel free," he replied. I hopped on the tractor, turned the key, and felt the red hot burn again. Then I saw the flash, followed by darkness. I woke up on the barn floor and saw the old tractor in its place. I opened the doors. Everything looked as it had when I left that morning. I was grateful to be back in the future, when the advances in farming practices mean California farmers can truly feed the world. My mom and I were driving in the car, and I was like giving her ideas, and she was giving me advice. And then she told me, "What if you did a story about, technology like nowadays compared to back in the 30s?" And I thought that was a really good idea, and so I thought of ways I could do that, and I thought of time travel. And I had just watched the movie Back to the Future, so I thought I would try to tie that in a little bit. I spent a lot of time on the internet just looking at like the GPS guided swather and the drones and all the new technology. And I spent a lot of time looking at like the types of how many people they could feed in the 30s compared to how many people they could feed now. Well, my mom wasn't there, but my dad congratulated me, and Later that day, my mom came and she was really excited that I had won, and we had this whole discussion. Well, agriculture is a fundamental part of our culture, and I think that a lot of people sometimes don't know a lot about it, and it's good for them to realize like a big factor of our country and what makes it work.